world. I guess you can see me on there real good. This is Charles. I'm just going to do a video. We had a storm come through and the track is closed for, I guess, a week or so. So I didn't have anything to do. I decided to make a video. I need to put together a stock engine to put in a chassis that I'm probably going to sell. So long story short, I was just going to do a video of doing that chassis, or correction, doing the engine that I'm putting in that chassis. So here you go. If you get confused or you need to know a question, a lot of this stuff I done in a prior video in more detail, but I'm just going to be putting this together on video just so I can have a video to put on YouTube. So here we go. Let's see here. I'm not going to do much narrating on this video. It'd probably be more talking to myself about things that I remember, but somebody may see something that they didn't know, or might see an idea. First of all, you start off with some clean cases. You have to have your cases clean. So the way I like to start is I'll split these cases. I'm gonna split these cases. Best way to do it also is don't have the transmission in the motor. When I split these, I'm gonna do this crank. This crank has not been, I call it massaging it in, but this crank hasn't been cleared for these cases. This is a totally different crank that I'm gonna put in this case. So needless to say, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna clearance this crank into this case. Now this is something that I like to do because it makes it easier. You take two of your engine studs, screw them in, and once you get those screwed in, now you can sit that upper case just like that. They'll sit in the air. I'm gonna clearance this crank in, so I'm gonna go ahead and put some brush bearings in just so it don't move around. And let me go ahead and I'll get ready to set this crank in this case. I've already done my homework. Just like I say, if I probably can see that if you see in a prior video, the case letters is AA, B, A, B. Crankcase letters is, which is on this crankcase. Crankcase letters are A, B, A. Of course, when you look in your factory manual, this is for a Gen 1 motor. For a Gen 1 motor, you need a Gen 1 manual. If you're doing a Gen 2 motor, you need a Gen 2 manual. If you're doing a Gen 3 motor, you need a Gen 3 manual. Because the bearings and the crank setup is going to be different for each one of those motors. Alright, so I've already got that set up. The bearing I need is green, black. So green, black. Let me get some bearings here. Green, black. And FOF, black, one set of blacks, two sets of black, one more set of black, and set of green. One set of black. One set of green. Two set of greens. Alright. Boom. Those are going to be my bearings right there for this crank. So normally what I'll do is I normally write down right by these where the crank is. I normally write it down right here on the case so I'll know exactly what I'm doing and what I'm looking at. So, on these bad babies, left to right to left. And as you can see me, I've been doing this for a long time. I always go back to the manual. I've never been a smarty pants and think that I know everything. I always go back and double check on the manual. So, B. I'm going to start on my generator arena. Start with it as the number 1. And my generator end, I'm going to have make sure my numbers is right, make sure my letters is right. Yep. Sure, double check. Double check over here. That bad baby's saying it's an A. Check right here. It says it's an A. Right. So that in that A, I need, my A and my A, I need a green. Green for this baby right here. So that's your first one. First, you gotta realize the first letter on the case is an A. You have to realize, just on the case now, this is your generator side. Here's your generator side. Your first letter up there in the book points at that generator side. It's an A. A matches up to A. In the books, give you a green bearing. And you work your way across the, so boom, here you are, green, green. Now you work your way to the, this was the first bearing. Because you got to realize now in this case, this, correction, in this case, your transmission, everything be sitting in this case here will flip on top of that. So you're working from the generator side, to the cam chain side. Alright? It's just the way to set it up, just the way to work. So, my next bearing on my case, I got an A. On my crank, I got an A. Same thing on the bearing, green. So up here, green bearing. These bearings have a, they also come with a number, but if you've never done this before, if you pay attention to the bearing before you put it in, if you look, I said I need a green bearing matched up. If you look at that bearing, see if you can see that in the camera. See that bearing got a, it's green on the bearing there. Some people don't wear gloves doing this. I've seen people don't wear gloves. It just advises, and I don't know if it's better or worse. I don't know now, but it just says wear gloves to keep your hand oil and from contaminating bearings. So I've always worn gloves because of that. I don't know. I've seen people do this without gloves, and everything worked out just fine. But to each his own now. Okay. Alright, as you see, got all those bearings placed in, and you should be able to check it easy. Gotta remember, it's your generator side. This is your cam change side. Yeah, what's racing is Charles. Yeah, go ahead. Who's the kit from? And what type of kit did you get? So it's got a little black box with it then. Should be a little square block, about 3 inches by 4 inches long with it, right? Yep. You're probably gonna be looking at least 400 to get that kit on there. Yep, yep, yep. Your air compressor probably be about $35 and add probably another 30 for the wiring and, you know, the time to do it. So you probably looking at what, I would say 475. Yep, yep. Okay, that worked. Okay. Heck, I don't know where I was at. But anyway. I thought I was getting ready to set this. But anyway, this is your generator side. So check your work out. You can keep going back to the manual, but it's really kind of easy. You gotta remember this stuff. This here is really would be considered your bottom of your case. This is considered the top of the case. And when you flip this case over, that's why I put letters on mine. So I know green should be here. Green should be here. Black, black, black. So if I look, I lettered each one as I went. Green, green, black, black, black. And I can see it when I turn this case over and made them together. Those bearings are in the correct order, the correct way, by the numbers on the crank and by the back of the case. They match up. All right. Toss that out of the way. And like I say, I haven't clearanced this crank in, and that's what I'm gonna do. Some people probably don't know what these are called, thrust bearings. These thrust bearings sit right in here, sit right there in the middle. All right. And now you'll see this is the reason why I use these two rods, or correction, these two studs. I use those two engine studs to hold that case up in the air so it's not sitting down, because I put those on there like that because here's my crank. All right. And you can tell when I just set the crank in. You've got your cam chain side, got your generator side. But this is why it's sitting up. You see my rods now falling down? Those rods got to go right in here. Boom, just like that. This brush parent keep falling out of there. I think I could slide him in there. Baby. Let me slide him in there. Yep. Brush parent, so let me slid him right back in there. Now there's a clearance that you check on that crank. Take a feeler gauge. Take a feeler gauge and check on this crank. Make sure I got enough clearance. It's just a little tight. A little tight, but that's okay because I'm going to take it apart and double check that clearance. But right now I'm going to check the clearance on all of these journals on this crank. Check the clearance on all of these journals on this crank. leave people in the dark, but what I'm doing is just a little bit of piece of that. It's just a little piece of that angled iron bracket stuff. I bolted it into. I took the crank bolt, bolted it in there. Got another little bolt here. It's something that you have to fabricate yourself or get up, because I'll show you what the purpose of this is in just a second. It gets bolted down here. This is the kind of ingenuity that a person is going to have to learn or do for themselves a little bit, because every application is different, or every decision that someone else makes is going to be different than another. But what I'm using this for is to doesn't have to be very tight. Tighten that down. Tighten this down. And that way, when I'm trying to do the clearance work on this crank, it won't twist and turn on me, because that'll mess up my clearance for these for the bearings. I'm gonna check this camera again, make sure people can see. Like I said, I've got a video of showing exactly how to clearance these, and let me get a little closer. I'll get a little closer on that But anyway, I've got other detailed videos showing how to do it. But I made that little bracket, and that's what that little bracket's for. And like I say, this is a little time consuming. This is what you are paying your engine builder for. This is not something that you're going to be able to say, oh, I'm going to do this in 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 2 minutes or 3 minutes. You got to be prepared just to take your time and clearance this the right way and do this the right way. I've got to use one. Got one of these that is used already down in here. I'm going to use it. It's coming. I'm going to use it instead of using a. Oh, there it is. It's in there. Some people probably never heard of Plastigage. You can get this at any parts store, AutoZone, Auto World. Napa. Get this Plastigage in any parts store. If they don't have Plastigage in there, it's probably not a parts store. But to see if my clearances is right, I'm good. I need to take this Plastigage and I'm going to cut little bitty strips of it. So I'm going to cut 5 of them, because I'm going to do the main bearing clearance here. I'm going to cut 5 little pieces of this. And you'll I'm going to take the little bitty pieces of Plastigage and I'm going to set them right up on the top of those crank journals. This is why you pay a mechanic to do this. This is not as easy as what a layman person thinks it is. And they'll say, well, why does an engine builder, why does it cost so much? And this is one of the reasons why. It takes a lot of time to do this. And that's just the way it is. I think a couple of these I might have cut a little too short. But I think they'll be okay. They'll be all right. One fell off. Plastigage sitting up on top of them. Gauge is sitting up. This is something that I was kind of taught when I was doing it. You take a, because you don't want that plastic gauge to move around. So you take a little dab of grease and put up there, and then stick that plastic gauge on it. And that'll keep that plastic gauge in the spot where you want it. Don't get carried away with the grease. Just a little dab of it will do. But that'll make that plastic gauge stick right up there where you want it. It won't move around. That's good. Now, this is where you need to go ahead and set up your, like I say in all my videos, if you don't have the right tools, go ahead and set your torque wrench up, because you're going to have to torque these down with the crank butt. So as you can see, I'm going to set these out here. To the outside. Inside. And I show this in more detail in another video, but got your three. Got your three on the ends. And you got that. And these is what you need to have, because now I'm going to take this case and made it to this case. And then I'm going to torque it down to the specs. Specs in the book, like I say, I do this all the time. And as you can still see me, I go straight back to the book when I start talking about specs. Just so I can know correctly where I need to torque this bad boy down at. And Okay. Okay. So, my book. I see crankcase specs by the book. Got my plastic gauge in there. Got my bearings. I'm going to make this case over, and that's going to compress that plastic gauge. Then I'll take a measurement with this, because the measurement comes on that plastic gauge. Take that measurement of exactly where I need these to be. So, put this case on here. She sits. All right. Put the case on. I'm not torquing these down at all. I'm just setting these, because these ones are on the ends with my brass washers. I'm just setting these. I'm going to go through a torque sequence here in just a little bit, but for these right now, I'm just setting them in there. So let's see where I need to be. All right. I'm not going to put any, I'm just doing this here to speed it up. These, do not torque this thing down with a power tool. You don't torque it down with a power tool, you use a hand tool, because things are going to go wrong if you think that you're going to use this to torque this down. It's not going to happen. Alright. Now I got those down without wasting a whole lot of time. So you need a good torque wrench. Torque these bad babies down. And this is when you torque them in a sequence. You start from the inside and go to the out. Okay. That was your initial torque. Now you have a final torque. This is where you be a little bit more careful with on your final torque. That's why it's good to have a good torque wrench, so you can look at it and then at the same time it's got an audible tone. It'll tell me. Now I got them all torqued. Come across, I'm going to just double check them. Yep. That's why I like this audible wrench. Get right down there. You can see on the numbers if they be right. that tightened those, that mated those cases together. Now, let's check the clearance on these. Let's check the clearance on these bad things. I do like the way these Hercules works as far as dealing with it, but I don't know if that's an issue or not. See how that Hercules, it stopped, I had to pull the battery off, then it'll reset, and then it'll power up and go. So, I don't know. If somebody has those and they tell me that they're cheap and don't buy them again, that's probably what I'll do if they'll say that that's normal. I don't know, but I did buy them because they were cheaper. And doing this, we don't need as much heavy-duty hardware if I was doing a car motor or something, because the torque specs aren't up to that. This is aluminum, and the torque specs just aren't up to that. So, but anyway, if you have something that you think, and so now unmated these cases, and I can tell already them babies look good. They look real good. All right. Yep. All right, I'm good. I can tell just by looking at them. I've done so many of these. I can tell by looking at them. Now, got that crank clearance, got everything clearance ready to go. You need to clean this stuff off of the bearings and the case. Do not leave this. Do not leave that plastic gauge on there. It's not good. So get that plastic gauge. Make sure you clean it all off, because it's not very good stuff to leave on there. Not good at all. Not good at all. Got that cleaned up. Have to get it in here off these bearings, off these new bearings, because it's not good on them. So I cleaned it up off the crank. I need to get that stuff off these bearings. I've seen people do this too. Just leave it on there. I don't know whether they had problems or not. It didn't make me any difference, but from the first time I ever done this, it just says remove it. may come along and say, hey, you don't have to do that. I don't know. I don't know. I can't say whether it's good or whether it's bad. I don't know. All right. Crank's been made. Case has been made together. Crank's been clearanced. Boom. Simple as that. As you can see, this is a nice little handy bracket to put on there because it kept that crank from moving. And you want that crank to stay. You want that crank to be still. Don't move while you're doing this. Once again, as you say, this is why this kind of got the kind of like to do this type of work. It's for some people it might be boring, it might be tedious, it might be stressful, whatever. But when I'm bored and don't have anything to do, this is one of the best times that I like to just pull motors out that I've been wanting to. Basically, before I sell, I'll go and buy a motorcycle, which I did. I bought these bikes. I don't know where they came from. I can just tell by the condition of them. I ride them, make sure the gear shifts in them, and if they do that, normally I buy them. I don't care what the body looks like, because I'm either going to build it into a custom bike or it's going to be built into a race bike, so it's going to get painted or whatever else anyway. But the engines I'll totally go through so that I can say to a person, I know that engine's good. I went through that engine, and normally in a Hayabusa I will put a race cut transmission in it. Even if it's a stock motor, I will have that second gear taken out. I don't care what the mileage is on the bike when I got it. I don't care if it shifted okay when I got it. 90% of the time, I will pull that motor out and do exactly what I'm doing now. Re-clearance everything, check everything on it, check the bearings, and that way now I'm comfortable with selling that bike because I know I went through the motor on it. Anyway, let's see, it's about the end of my day. I've been messing with this for a while. I'm gonna cut this video off right now, cover this up, and I'm gonna start up again and put this, start putting the transmission and all that stuff in it, and I'll start up again probably tomorrow sometime. I'm just gonna get down here. Anyway, this is Willie Racing, saying all my videos, bye-bye, or bye until tomorrow, because I'm just going to continue this thing and start it tomorrow. So, bye-bye for now. Okay, yesterday I got to a certain point on this and I stopped. All right, I am going to, yesterday I set this crank, Plastigaged it in, clearance it into the cases, and today I'm gonna set this crank in here, set the transmission, and I am going to go ahead and put these cases together. So the first thing, I've already got all the bearings in. I've done put my whole shifter drum, and I put in the shift mechanism. Everything looks, all the moving, everything looks good. Shift forks look good. As you can see, I set these at basically neutral, and that way when I flip this, when I get everything together, see how these shift forks are sitting up? They should sit in neutral like this. They should sit, boom, right down on that transmission. I'll show a little bit of that alignment in a second, but first thing I do is I'm gonna put this crank in here. Give me a little bit. Some people put a little oil in. Other people's don't. I'll just say this. I like putting me a little oil in here. Some people say don't do it. Other people say do it. This is the way that I've always done it. So, and you don't need a lot of oil. You just need enough to get on those bearings. So when those bearings motor first fire up, it does have something sitting up there. You don't need a whole lot of oil. Just need just a little bit. Just a little bit. So let that do its thing on all those bearings. Like I say, you don't have to make a mess of this. Just need a little bit. Just a little bit. And yeah. So that's a little bit of oil so that crank can sit down there and have some when it do its initial fire up. It'll have a little bit of oil sitting there. So since I got that done, I'm gonna make sure everything is cleaned up. I know it's clean. Rods, them bad babies is moving around freely. Everything looks good. Let me set this crank down in here. Oh, there she goes. There she is. She's sitting in there. I got the crank in there. Open up these transmissions. Transmission here. Sit this transmission in there. Now, of course, you didn't see me put them in there, but you got thrust bearings. And I already had those thrust bearings sitting in there. So there's some thrust bearings that are sit down in that motor along with the main bearings. Open up this transmission. There. That's the best thing I could tell anybody is before you install it, make sure that you clean off everything. And, that way you won't have all this stuff you pick up. The engine won't be all goofed up in the inside from it not being clean enough. Okay, so my transmission there. Still gotta. My problem is I'm a little bit anal about keeping that stuff clean because it's gonna save me some problems later on down the road. Didn't have up here with me is I didn't have my keepers. And I have to go in the back and get me some keepers. I'm gonna pause this because it'll probably take me 10 or 15 minutes to find me some keepers. So I'll be right back. What's going on? I'm back. Anyway, I showed all this in previous videos, but long story short, I'm starting off where I left off. I already got this transmission in, and these transmissions and the crank, really they're easy to set back in. You just got to remember you got a little pin, got a pin on the side here. guide pin. Put that guide pin in its notch. There's a guide pin notch here, or there's a notch on these cylinders. Matter of fact, this is how easy it is to take the transmission out and put one in. Now that transmission's out, and you see that little notch there. That notch goes on this notch here. See the little notch there? Line that notch up there. The little pin I'm talking about. See the little pin that's there? That little pin's got to sit in here. Of course, you got your transmission retainers. So there's a retainer that sits in there. It really doesn't matter which one you put in first, but see your little pin and your little notch. I'm gonna line them up just like this here. That's it. Hear that transmission click in? That's it. So that is in. Same with this here. Same with there's a little notch. A little notch has to sit there. Make sure your transmission retainer, got that retainer's in there. The retainer goes in. See the little notch here? That little notch sits in there. So basically take your notch here, line it up, get your notch there. Just there you go. Adjust these around a little bit there. See how easy that's sitting there? Sit there. Turn your notch back around. Keep that there. You go. Keep it low. That's it. The transmission's sitting in there. That's it. Phone would ring when I'm doing something. Get this phone. Yeah, Will's Racing, Mr. Charles. Hello? I thought they got rid of these spam calls and all these people looking for something, but spin that transmission. Now you know that transmission's in there. Now, a good way to do this, because I'm ready to mount the cases, I kind of show you how a good way to put these, and don't forget your oil seal. Sit that oil seal right there. Now before I go ahead and put the case sealant on here, there's all your main bearings. Make sure they're sitting in there. I've already oiled them up a little bit. I'm gonna wipe a little bit of that oil and grease off of there. Paper towel here. Get me a little bit of this off here. So before, I'll try to make these cases together and put my sealant on there. Get your shift drum. Get your shift drum in the neutral. Where your shift forks. See how those shift forks are sitting in there? this shift fork here has to sit right in this groove. These two shift forks have to sit in this groove. One here and one there. And as you can see, what I've done is, watch when I turn this case upside down, basically. So I'm going to turn this case just like I'm ready to mate it to the bottom case. And now you see how my shift fork's there? This shift fork here is almost lined up with that one. This shift fork here and this shift fork here right for the middle. So when I turn that case and set it like that, see how them shift forks are sitting there? And you don't have to fight them so much when they're set up like that. So find neutral. Find neutral on your shift drum where those shift forks are sitting up just like so. And right now them shift forks are ready to go in there. You may have to jiggle them around a little bit because shift forks got to go down in these grooves. This for the two rear ones and this for the front one. So just kind of set them up just like that with this transmission. So when that shift fork, when you get ready to make these cases together, boom, them shift forks should almost slide down in there. Keep yourself a nice, you need a nice, skinny, long screwdriver. I like to have a nice little strong skinny screwdriver. So when I do make these cases together and say my shift forks are a little bit off, I can get that screwdriver in here in the back, in the front, you can kind of move them over to get those shift forks. See, just move them gears over just where you want them to be so them shift forks will finally sit down and let that case sit down. But set them up kind of like that, all right? And actually, I'm ready to put these cases, I'm actually ready to make this case together. So, get over here. See if y'all can see that. Yeah, I'm still on. See that product right there? Yamabond. That's what I like to use. And so I'm going to show you how to put this sealant on these cases. And let me get me some gloves on. I need some gloves. Now, the only other thing I can tell a person to do that may be novice at that is, because when you get these cases mated together, you get them flipped over, you get them mated together after you got your sealant on there. You'll be ready to torque this down. So as you can see, I've already got my torque wrench sitting here, and I'm gonna have it ready to go. Also had to work on the head last night. I had some valves, two valves that just didn't look the greatest. So I changed them out. That's what I had to take my time. It killed a little bit of my time. But anyway, some people get carried away with this bond stuff. If you just put it on and you squeeze it all in, you got to realize it's going to squeeze out into the interior of the motor. Now when that stuff starts breaking out or it starts coming loose or deteriorating, it gets all down in your motor, it gets into your oil pickup. It's a mess. You don't need to goo and gop this stuff on here. And one of the best ways I found out to do it is just take your time, put it in the places in the area that you need, and just take your time and then clean it up a little bit before you do anything. And so you can just take this, like I said, this product that I use is called Yamabond. You can just take this Yamabond, and as you can see, it's It's already ready to go. But this is all you simply need to do. You don't need a whole lot of this stuff. As you see, I like to take a Q-tip. I Q-tip it up so it don't get all, you don't, like I say, you don't, some people, there's big gobs of this stuff on here, and that makes a mess inside your engine later. I just like to take me a Q-tip and line it off, and have a Q-tip to line this off. Does wonders, because you don't need to get this stuff. You don't need to get this stuff just all gooped up in there. It's not really good for that. It's not good for your motor. So just take your time and get it on there. And something you have to do is take your time. As you can see, just like I say, some areas I just take a Q-tip, I smooth it right on out so she'll seal up, and get this stuff. Like I said, don't get carried away and get this stuff everywhere. You don't have to do that. Okay. All right, that's good enough. A lot of people will take and they'll put this all up in here, all any space. They'll just try to fill it in, but really you don't need to do all that because all of this is internal. So oil, whatever oil gets in here, this is all internal stuff right here. So This is where your clutch is going to be sitting at. So why try to seal that up when all of this here is going to be internal oil? Just do your perimeter, front that case, do right here, because all this here is not internal. See, do right here. Let me give me a little bit. I probably do it like this right here. Like I say, don't get carried away with this stuff. As you can see, it's already starting to kind of, this Yamabine is some good stuff. It's already starting to seep down itself. See how stringy and sticky that is? So, getting back to what I was saying, you don't need this stuff to get everywhere. Like right here, see, this is going to be an external spot. So get you some Yamabine on there. It'll seal that up. That's good. That's good. But you don't need to get this stuff just gooping and gopping on there everywhere, because that ain't gonna be any good. No good at all. And if you take motors apart, engines apart, and you definitely do it later, you'll see why. It's nice and clean when you do it like this. So now basically, I got my sealant in there. I think I got my transmission set up for my, and now I can simply make these cases together. All my bearings, they look like they're all sitting in there. Everything's sitting in there real good. And check these bearings over here, make sure they sitting down in there like they supposed to. Yep, they look good. And now we can take this case and we could make this case together. This case here should sit right on down on there with no big issues. Got my. So just take that case. Just sit that case right on down in there for this shift fork right here. That's why you see with my screwdriver. You look right down there and see, and just move it over to line it up. Let it sit down in there. Setting these forks back here in the back. That's why you can. Go. So see how now them shift forks are sitting. That's going to be just pay attention to your shift forks, because now this case is ready to sit right on down in there. Don't go beating and banging on this thing. You got to sit down, and you got to realize your bearings and everything has to sit down on there. So don't go a beating and banging on this thing. See if I See how I wiggled and jiggled that case right down on there? And as soon as you get that case sit down on there, you'll tell it to sit right on down. Go ahead and get your transmission. When that transmission spin like that there, oh, that's why it wouldn't go in there. I had that piece sitting on there. So now you see why that was moving in the way of that case. That's what was making it hard. So now I can see my transmission spinning. That bad baby's sitting on there. And that's it. Them cases is on there. I'll take you. Like me, I done showed people how to do this already. You just set them up. So I have them sitting there. Put the backs in them, my tall three. That's it. As you can see, got your full coppers. They all on the end. See those 3 bolts? Heads of them are a different color. And head of them are a different color. One's longer than the other. Long ones, right up top. These, right there. Alright. What I normally do is I'll take a I'll take just a spinner and I'll spin them down. Now, you don't want to spin these down tight. You just spin them down, let them touch, because there's a torque order that these have to go in. So some people use different torques. I've seen people torque from the outside in. I've seen people torque from the inside out. I don't know which one is the best, but as you can see, I torque from the inside out. That's just the way I do it. But I've seen people do it totally different ways. So I'll just run these down by hand just to where they touch. And once I get them ran down by hand, now, same thing. You're always going to hear me bragging about tools. Get yourself a good torque wrench. Don't go out there and get a BS torque wrench. Get yourself a good torque wrench. And as you can see, I'm going to start from the inside out, going in a crisscross pattern. Some people start and they go all the way across from either side. I don't know which is better, but I was just always told, starting on the inside, go crisscross. Don't matter whether you go that way first, this way first, that way first, just go crisscross and then on the outsides. So that's just the way I was taught. So set your torque wrench up. Get your torque specs out the book. where this need to be. That's why you need a factory manual. Get your good torque wrench. You got what we call a initial torque, and then you got a final torque. But get you a good torque wrench so you'll know how to do it and what's going on, because this torque wrench is going to tell me. Torque wrench is going to tell me. Torque wrench here is going to scream at me and tell me where my torque specs is at. So that's why I used it. As you can see, I crisscrossed from side to side till I got out. Okay, that was my initial torque. Do the same thing. What I normally do is when I do that initial torque, I still check the transmission no matter what on there. In a second I'll check that crank, but that was my initial torque right there. Look at your service manual. I tell people all the time, look at your service manual, because I do it every time. And I find out what my final torque is. Even though I know, I always go to the service manual, because you can always be Mr. Smarty Pants and think, oh, I got it. I always go back to the service manual, and on this initial torque, this is where I really pay attention. All right, because you don't want to over tighten these and smash your bearings out around. You ruined the whole motor. You done, whatever you were trying to do, you just killed yourself. So on this final and initial torque, on this final torque, be precise about it. Be precise about it. And get her on in there. And just like I say, you see I'm still crisscrossing. All right. The only thing I would say do is what I like to do. I'll go back now and I'll just kind of check. Like I said, just take your time on this because this is very important on this here. You don't want to over tighten these things. All right, now that I got those tight, before I continue, I just want to check one thing, and that is, I want to spin that crank. I want to spin that crank around, and that crank should spin around smooth, just like that. Just like that. You should be able to, yep, that crank just shouldn't be, do it both ways, forward, backwards. That crank shouldn't have any hang up. There shouldn't be any resistance to this crank. You feel anything that's out of line and this resistance on this crank, probably need to start over. So anyway, now that all your main crank bolts in there, of course, you can do all your other nuts and bolts and put those in. So long story short, I'm gonna do that. I'm not gonna say too much more. On these, as you can tell, I really like to feel them by hand. I do set them at a torque spec, but it's low. It's not heavy. In there. Yep. All right. So basically, that's the bottom. That's the bottom of that case. What I like to do is, if I got any of that extra sealant pushing out, especially if it's pushing out on the inside of the, where it's going to basically be on the inside of the engine once it's assembled, I'd rather not have that stuff getting in the inside of the engine and getting into basically my oil. So I'd rather take the time now while that stuff is still, it ain't hardened up, to go ahead and clean any excess off that might have gotten inside, and that way I don't have to worry about it later on ending up in any of my oil inside of my motor. Basically, inside of my motor basically can stay as clean as possible. And I'll also do the outside because I don't like that, all that sealant sitting on the outside of this engine either. Once I get them done. Sometimes you see it, look at a motor, it's got all kind of sealant sitting on the outside of it. That's something that I don't particularly care for. So once I get it assembled, then I'll go and I'll get all that stuff out of there. Get all that off. And now you can take your motor, turn that bad boy over. And now you're looking at the top side of it. You can go ahead and do the top side. So you can see I'm on the top side of that motor. And people that see me do a more thorough video of this, on your, there's going to be 3 of your bolts. There's going to be 3 of your bolts that got those copper washers on it. And this is something that I also do when I get to this point with the motor. Because you don't want to see all your hard work go down the drain. Even though if something does go down in there, you probably could get it out. But now you can see how convenient these studs were to use. Because now you can see I take these studs out. They were just holding the engine up so that you can basically easy to work on. Spin the crank with the rods and everything hooked to it. And so now, since you got it flipped over, you can take them out. Those basically was just holding the motor up off the table so you can set your crank and everything in there. But something I normally do when I get to this part is I'll go ahead and cover this up and keep working on the motor so that nothing goes down in there. I need to also get my cap on that too. But going back to what I was saying, if you remember from my other videos, and you remember to keep all your nuts and bolts in line, you will remember that got those little copper washers. They go here, here, here. So that's where those copper washers go. The rest of them. Yeah. And that's why I keep them all in my little bag. I do the same with them. I'll normally run these down the same. Just run them down by hand. See them all in there by hand. Once you run them down by hand, do the same thing. Get your torque wrench. Torque them all down. Okay. Got those. Okay. So now, the cases have been locked together. So that's the bottom, top. All right, that's the whole bottom end of this. Of course, next thing you do is you get ready to set that block on. I have to make a decision whether I'm got me a new set of, I have to make a decision. I got me a new set of JE pistons. So I have to make a decision whether to use these new JEs or put some, I don't know quite what I'm going to do yet, because I've got a good head already built, and I've got a stock head. I'll get back here. See here. You'll be able to see. I've got two heads sitting here. This is a stock head here. The valves look, them two just didn't look too good. Looked like they just didn't look right. So took them out. Then I've got a full cut head here. I ain't made a decision yet about what I'm gonna do. So probably sleep on it and think about it. There's no need for me to continue on, because some of this everybody got their own little motor techniques, and just being honest, everybody's got their own little motor techniques, their own little engine techniques from this point on. And that's what people pay us to do. To use whatever knowledge we got and whatever little techniques that we use. So I'll just say this, from this point on, this is where we do our little scientific magic of what we're going to do and how we're going to make an engine run and what we want it to do. And so, needless to say, most of the stuff that I'm getting ready to do is not just going to be for somebody that is novice and they're just going to say, okay, hey, I'm putting a motor together by what it says in the manual. putting this bottom end together because this is basically really going to be a stock motor, but I am going to make a decision. It's going to be, still going to be 81 millimeter pistons in it, but I'm going to make a decision whether to make them lightweight JEs. I also got a set of I've got a set of JE. I've got a set of web. Cams, and some different things that I might do. And we set them up different ways than what a stock engine would be set up. So, needless to say, there's no need to show that stuff because we all got our own little trade secrets about the way that we like to do things and how we do things. And that's why people pay these. Vance and Hine doesn't get on. I don't know why I'm saying Vance and Hines. I can say, don't limit it to one thing. All your great engine builders, they wouldn't get on and show you just what I showed you because I'm not in their class. I'm not in a Vance and Hines class. I'm not capable of, I don't have that type of knowledge of what they're doing. HTP, DME, I can go on and on with people that are hell of a lot engine builders than I am and probably know all kind of secrets. But I can guarantee you this, they are not on YouTube or the internet letting their secrets out there. And if I was as accomplished as they are, I wouldn't be on the internet either letting my secrets out there. So, needless to say, I don't, this is something that any novice person can do. And I'm just trying to help somebody that, hey, need to put a transmission in, need to do this, need to do that. Just your basic engine work that somebody can do. When it comes to building a race engine and a high performance engine, that's a whole totally different thing. And I've got my little secrets for the level that I'm on. And then the big boys, DME, and whoever else out there, them people are doing things that I can only dream of. So, needless to say, I need to get in bed and go to sleep and have bigger dreams, I guess, because I can't do what they do. So, it is what this is. This will show. I just show enough to show your novice guy or somebody who say, I can't afford to do this. Let me do this myself. Well, I'm hoping that they see something or they can learn something from what I did. And basically, I'm doing it by the book. I am doing it by your factory service manual. So that leads me to where I am now. Most of what you just saw me do with this engine was by your factory service manual. And like I'm saying, this is going to be more of a stock engine. But the problem is now, am I starting to change things from it being totally stock coming from the factory? Yes. Because as soon as I start picking up these JE pistons and different things, now there's different things that I'm going to do to these pistons, different ways that I'm going to set it up. So now this is not totally stock anymore. There's things that I may do with these cams. I already know you just heard me say web cams. I don't know what I'm going to put in it yet. But if I do put some cams in, I can guarantee you they're going to be web cams. That's all that I use. So shout out to web. That's all I use. And so if I got a motor out there, it's got web cams in it. Simple as that. So anyway, that's the end of this video. I'm getting ready to start my little science project, what I like to do. And so anyway, if this here hopefully could help somebody, set a crank, put your transmission in, have at it. hope I done the best that I could to show you possibly how. Anyway, it's Charles at Willis Racing, and I'm gonna say bye-bye till you see me again. Bye-bye. What's up, video world? As you can see, I've got this motor together, and I'm gonna put the clutch in, oil pump, my water pump, the generator. I do all the little final touches. You can see I take in, I've got this stand. Get back, I got this stand. I like to work on them standing up at this point. And normally this is the time, if you're doing it by the book, they'll be putting this stuff on earlier than what I put it on. I normally put it on, actually I always put it on later when I get the bike standing up in the air. The main reason I get it standing in the air is because I like to put the, it's easier for me to work on, and I like to put, let's get up here and I'll show you, that little bitty area right there, that is where your crank balancer goes. Show you see if I can get this on the video here. This is where can you see, this is your crank balancer, and that balancer goes up in here. So I'm gonna show somebody that asked in an early video how to put that balancer in. So I'll show you how to put that balancer in there the correct way, and what to look for, how to line it up, and what you need to do to get this balancer in. So I'm going to put this balancer in right now. Now the first thing you need to do is, when you put that, before you put this crank balance in, let me bring this video up here. You got to get up here on the motor. See your marks. You gotta line those marks up. Okay, and as you see where that's at on the motor, there you go. You look in there, look right in that little hole there, and line the marks up. Now basically, this is just the way they explain in the book. I would tell somebody, just put your motor at top dead center. If you put your motor at top dead center, these marks are gonna line up. But telling you about a book, what the service manual says, line up these two index marks. Got to line them up first before you put your crank balancer in there. So let me get this motor, I'm gonna get this here set up again so you can see. Let me put this crank balancer in here. Alright, that's where it's just about. Okay. Kind of hard for me to do this in video, so I have to hold this up in front, but let's see where that is on there. You can't really see it on the, there it is. You see that little groove? Right there, that little line. It's a little line. Look at this part on your crank balancer. Try to keep it in the video and do it at the same time. Look at that part. Look at this part on your crank balancer, and right there, if you, let me get me a sharp, get me a pointer. See it right there? Right there. See a little line going across that balancer? You take that line that's going across that balancer, and if you look up, I'll put some more light up here. You look up into the bottom of your engine on the side of the case. I think I can see that in the video. Yep. There's a little notch, a little arrow triangle notch right there. That line needs to be lined up with that little notch. Okay? So I'm gonna set this balancer in there, and then I'll show you. So set the motor at top dead center, or actually, I'll just say it the way the books say. Line up those two index points on your motor, and then you take this balancer. You can see it there. Here's the balancer, and then here's the this is actually slides through, so you take this here, and I'll just set it right up there in the motor. See where it slides in? And then that there is going to hold that balancer in there. So take this balancer and get your mark lined up on that balancer, and we're going to line it up. Hold that balancer together just like that. And we're going to get that balancer lined up. I'm going to turn this motor so I can see it. I'm going to get that balancer lined up with that mark. Yep. Okay, let's look up in there. Let's see if I got that on. See if you can see that on the video. There it is. Okay. That's how easy it was to slip that balancer in there. I'm going to slip that balancer in. You see my mark here on the side of the case. And see how it's in line with this mark here. This here has to be lined up with that mark there. Alright? And that's it. That balancer is sitting in there. And that's the way you put a balancer in there. And of course, this is what the shaft looks like. There's your, see if I can see that in the video. Here's your shaft. Let's get your shaft in the video. Hard to video, and there's the shaft. So now this is the end of the shaft, and that shaft now, and I'll pull it out so you can see it. This shaft now, see how I pulling that shaft out? you line up, you get your crank balancer in there, you line it up, then you take that shaft and stick that shaft in there, and that shaft will run right on through. And then of course it bolts in, and boom, that's it, your crank balancers. That shaft is running. See if that's in the video. Yep. That shaft is running through, right through your crank balancer. And that's it. That's how you set that crank balancer in there. So, but remember, see if that's, yeah, get that in there again so you'll be able to see it. Yeah. So remember again, you have this index line right here through your crank balancer. That index line on that crank balancer has to be lined. There's a triangle right here. See that little pointer right there on the casing? Has to be lined up with that pointer right there in the casing. So that pointer has to be lined up with that index. And that's it. That crank balancer is sitting in there. So long story short, that's the way I like to normally do it once I get the motor done. This motor's sitting up in the air. I like to put all the other stuff on last, and normally that crank balancer and the last little, my oil pickup, my oil return, all that last little stuff, I do that very last. I don't put that on the motor until I'm definitely done. So anyway, the next part I'll show this here. I'm gonna have this motor done, and I'm gonna put this motor in a engine starting stand, and I'm gonna start this bad baby up. So give me a little bit. I got some other things that I need to do. Like I said, I'm gonna put on the clutch. Simple, put on the clutch, put on my lines and my hoses and generator cover and a couple other things, and then I'm gonna fire this bad baby up. So I'll add that on in just a little bit. What's going on, video world? The other day I had that motor I was working on. I put it together. I'm trying to get this thing running today. So I'm about ready to try to start this engine for the first time. Let's get me some batteries hooked up here. Get some battery hooked up here for it. And I think that we can see if I can get this thing to run. Like I say, I made a video because I was basically, I'll call it off. I was off work. I didn't have anything really to do, but I do have a couple of, I actually have enough, been having enough stuff laying around that I could put a couple of motors together, actually to put in some builds that I've got planned to do. And check this wiring. So I put this thing in here, and let's see if I could get this thing to, see if I can't get this thing to fire up. Yeah, it's yeah, people can see. Check the oil in there. Yeah, oil in there. Everything looks fairly good. There's something I need to check though. I think what I'm gonna do is, because I didn't do it. Check this. Check this oil sensor. Put an oil sensor on this thing. Check. Do a little check in here. Put a new one on here. Put a new sensor in there. So I know that. New oil pressure sensor on there. So before I fire it out, let's see what I got going on there. New sensor on there. Sensor on there. Let's see. What else? Let's see. This looks good. Let's got some fuel. Let's see. A little bit of fuel in there. A little bit in there. I think that'd be enough. All right, let's try to see if I can get this thing. See if this thing is started up. Fuel pump siphon. Let's see if she's fired up. Okay. All right. What I'm gonna do is don't look like them injectors. Look like them injectors fired. All right, so I can tell right now I need to make a few adjustments. This is a first gen motor with, of course, first gen wiring harness setup. When the first gens came out, back in '99, of course there was the issue with the same thing with the exhaust system. This won't work. As soon as when you put an exhaust on, people were saying that you had to have a power commander, the exhaust, and then this and that. Well, a lot of people didn't know that they had a box back then called a Yosh box, that it was actually in the service manual. And so I'll show that, and then I'm gonna get a book of some settings. Now today people would call it, everybody has, today people are gonna call it a tune. I'm gonna put a tune in it. With this Yoast box, I just call it settings. It was the easiest way to deal with these motorcycles. But today everybody calls it a tune. So a long story short, I'll show you. Let me grab one of these boxes. I know I got one here. I know I keep one in my race rig. But I know I've got another one here somewhere. Yeah, there we go. Back in this is going back in 1999, 2000, when these Hayabusas first came out. Let's see if I can get this on the video. Nowadays, people call it all these tunes. You need power commanders. You need a dyno jet. This. You need a Mr. Fuel. You got to plug something up and run just all kind of stuff on a motorcycle. Long story short, Yoshimura made see that box right there? Yoshimura, when the Hayabusa first came out, made a box with a little bitty fuel injection module in it. And I'll show you what that looks like. And that fuel injection module system looked just like that. And I would tell anybody in the video world, if you ever see one of these anywhere for sale and you have a first gen, sure, they got dyno jet, they got all kind of juice boxes and whatever else. I'm gonna tell you right now, nothing works better than this thing right here. Nothing. And I'm gonna prove it to you. Watch what I can do with this motor. Because I've got some settings from doing other motors that I've got in a book where to set this box and set the injectors to basically 99% of the time I can get this motor to fire up with this box. So I'm gonna go to my book right now and look at some settings that I have. So it's gonna take a minute, but I'm gonna look up some settings in the book, and I'm gonna hook this box up to it, and I'm gonna dial those settings in, down, and actually this box is going to edit my stock ECU with the settings I put in. And I guarantee you, I'm getting ready to show you, I can get this motor to fire up better than any Power Commander, fuel juice box, you name it, go on and on. Now, I've got these books. I don't know if anybody ever seen these books. These are log books. I've got these books. I've got these log books back to 1999 from when I first started using. I know different run settings. I know the temperature. Some people have never seen a run book, but this is a brand new run book. And also in these run books, I put settings where I had downloads. From when I put motors together or I get to the racetrack, I'll have this thing with me at the racetrack, and I would download, edit right into my stock ECU with this box to make my motor, get it where I need to be, get the bike to run where I need to be. So I'm gonna hook this box to this motor, and I can guarantee you within, matter of fact, I'm gonna look at my book and I'm gonna put a setting right now in this, and that I got in this book for first gen motors, and I can guarantee you this baby will fire up. Probably, if not on the first one, the second one, it'll fire up. So let me put a setting in. And sand. This is telling me from looking at my book, basically I'm gonna go too rich on my, let's go too rich on my idle, and on my low, I'll do a -5, and then on the mids and the high, I'm gonna do 2 +5s, and set that. We're gonna see if this bad baby will fire up. So let me over here, and so with that setting, I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna download this right into this motor right now, or correction, into the ECU as we speak. All right. So get over here. Get my power. And what I said, that book said it, I said it was too rich. And download that there. below 5. I want 5 plus. Medium, I want to do. I'll do 5 plus on all of them. Do 5 plus on all of them. So my medium, my low, medium, and high, I'm going to do 5 plus. Alright. Let baby set for a second. And boom, she should be downloaded. Shut that off. Let me unplug this bad boy. And let me check. I'm going to check one other thing on this motor. Where is my... Check one other thing over here. Oh, there it is right there. On all my race bikes, see if you can see that in the video. On my race bikes, let me see how I can explain it to you. On a motorcycle, on the throttle body, there is a sensor, and it's called the throttle position sensor. If you look in the manual, they'll call it a TPS sensor. The name of it really is a throttle position sensor. This little deal right here, you can plug it up to your wiring harness on your motorcycle. You can also make this switch simply just an on and off switch. So on all my race bikes, somewhere on them, I have a little switch for maintenance. If a code or something kicks off on the bike, I can take now. I don't have to have this with me. Now, I've got an on and off switch on my motorcycle that takes the place of this, that's on the bike all the time. So if a code pops up, I can get back to the pits or wherever and kick that switch on, and it'll tell me up on my dash what the code is. The code will start reading out. This switch though is also a throttle position switch, and you can plug it up and see where your throttle position is also on your dashboard on your Hayabusa. On a Gen 1, you can see it at low, medium, and high. So I'm gonna check that right now to find out. And basically on your wiring harness, as you can see, you can plug this up, plug that bad baby in, just like so. And I can turn it on. And right here, this is my control panel. So right here is showing the time where the clock is. I hit that switch right there. Come on, here it goes. I hit that switch right there, and boom, that bad baby will start showing. If the FI lights kick on, it'll show any code. Right now, it ain't showing me anything, so I'm good to go with that. All right. No codes on there, no codes on the engine. I entered in the numbers, so let's see if this bad boy fire up. show you how simple that was. And let me do this because it just kicked the code on me. So fire it up and see if it can kick this code again. Should kick that code again. I've done that because I want the motor to, because now I have to put this on here. It's saying it is a, which I know the code's offhand, it's saying it is a injector. So that's good. Nothing to do with my motor. That motor sounds good. So probably in my wiring harness or something, it sounded like it went down. Let's see which one. I'm trying to find out. Let's see which one this thing baby is here. See which one it may be. You see how easy that was to set that? Whenever you normally have an ejector code, if you have an ejector code, for some reason, it appears that it has to do with a new engine build like this, and whether it's cycling, whether it's picking up, but it's normally number 2 cylinder. And so you see how that motor started to run down. It was running fine, then it started to run down. I immediately, I'll already know when I normally do these, I already have enough stuff up here, so I had another coil pack sitting up there. You can see I immediately put that coil pack and I put it on cylinder number 2. The code went away, it fired right back up. I've just seen it's like an anomaly occurrence. I've just seen it do that. It may be because of the way I set this up as far as the wiring harness, because to get the engine to run up here, you have to eliminate and add a couple of things normally that aren't from the factory wiring harness. So long story short, it seems to affect cylinder or injector number 2. And for me, just doing it numerous times, I knew. But that's how you can immediately check, by running the codes, by having your switches. The Gen 1 Hayabusa is a beautiful thing. It's like the easy motorcycle to work on with the technology. I've got some Gen 3s now, and oh my Lord, you better get your electrical engineering skills and technology together, because the electrical configuration and all of the line lock, the shifters, and all of the electronics that was put into that bike through the ECU, to make it a race bike, you've got to deal with some things to get around it. So, long story short, boom, y'all see me put this motor together, from setting the crank in it to doing everything. I checked, one of the things to check, probably the most important thing is, that's why I was down here with this light. You can see my oil level, which you probably can't see from the camera, but when you fire up a motor like this, whether it's on a stand, whether it's in your motorcycle, the first thing to check is make sure that your oil pump is working. And the way to do that is look at your sight level. So right now, this sight level is full all the way to the top. When I start this engine, this sight level should start dropping down, because the oil pump now is pumping oil through all of the oil passages within this motor. So it's taking it out of the bottom, and that oil now is being pumped through the whole motor. So this oil in this sight glass, that oil level should go down. If you start the motor and that oil level don't go down, immediately shut that thing off and start looking at your fuel, start looking at your oil pump, because that's a good sign that your oil pump is not, you either forgot to put the rubber seal in it, or you forgot to put the seal, the little red seal on your pickup down here, and it's sucking more air than oil. It's actually sucking up more air than oil. Because when you fire that motor up, this right here, the oil, if it's sitting at full, that oil should drop down. It should drop down. So that's the first thing that I would check, and that's why you see me, boom, that's the first thing that I started checking. Now I'm gonna fire this engine up. I'll run it for a while. I'll make about 3 or 4 cycles on it. We'll start tuning. Yeah, correction, there we go with the fancy word. I will actually start adjusting. I don't call it tuning anything. I actually start adjusting the injectors so this thing will run efficiently. I don't care about a hot rod tune and this and that, because I'm just messing with street bikes. And I tell anybody, I don't use power commanders, I don't use juice boxes. I like to download right in the ECU, because I'll just say this, it's 45 degrees outside. Why would I tune a bike with this nice cool air and it's 45 degrees outside? Whether I was on a dyno, whether I'm sitting on this table, wherever. And next week, matter of fact, today is I think Wednesday or Thursday, and they say Sunday is supposed to be 85 degrees. But I just tuned the bike and it was 45 degrees. Well, I really need a whole different tune if it's 85, and plus then you add it in the humidity, then you add in the barometric pressure, then you add in the water grains that's in the air. Then I don't know anyone that is riding around on a high performance motorcycle on the street and he's got a weather station with him, because that's the only way you're going to tune a bike, is to have you a weather station, so you know what the barometric pressure is, you know how many water grains is in the air, you got to know yada 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 yada. So all these so-called fancy tune stuff, I'm telling you, now this is just me personally, I don't use power commanders, I don't use juice boxes, I don't use any of that. I'd rather just download, have me a nice little performance download with the bike running at its best. I normally won't mess with one like right now. I just need to mess with this just enough to get it running. Now that I know it's running, I know where the average is. Just like I said, I'm gonna go to my book that I've been doing for years, whether I was at the racetrack or whatever, and that's where I have a weather station. And I'm gonna look for basically there I was getting ready to use tuning gun. I'm gonna look for a download to burn and etch in my ECU that matches some good race times that I had at the racetrack on your average day when it's about 87 degrees outside. That's our average hot summer race temperature, I found out, is about 87 degrees. That's where I want my bike to be tuned at. Or there I go with that word tune. I don't use that word. That's nonsense to me. That's where I want my download in my computer to be. I don't know, like I say, I just reiterate, I don't know anyone that has a weather station tied to their bike where they start it up every day and they tune it every day. The only people that I know do that, and the only thing that I got that does that on my so-called real race bike, you heard me, I even call my bike so-called real race bike, I got $4,500 in what I need to, now I'm gonna say, tune the bike and make it run. And that's in a max ECU. Because on a real race bike, to get the best out of it, you got to tune it every pass. So how am I gonna go with a power commander or juice box or this or that and get the best tune out on the street? And like I say, it's 45 degrees this morning. I could take off riding my bike. It ride good. It run really good because it's nice, crisp, and cool. On the way home from work this evening, especially the way the temperature varies where we live at, it could be 105. Well, now I got a motorcycle that was tuned for 45 degrees. And now on the way home, it run like what? Doo-doo, because it's 105 degrees. The humidity's off the chart. And you're out here running up and down the street saying, oh, my bike is fast. All motorcycles are fast when they're running by themselves. When you set another motorcycle beside it, that's when you find out what you really have. So, let me get off that soapbox. Anyway, as you seen, boom, that was the easy way to do it. And like I say, to people that want to really have some, get their own knowledge together, if you ever see one of those boxes that I showed you earlier, and you have you a Gen 1, buy that box. They probably, they're out there running around. I've done seen them running around for $400-500. It's going to be the best power commander you've ever had that is not attached to your motorcycle. And you can put it in your book bag. And if you do a lot of downloads and charting like I do, you can put it in your book bag and, hey, tune it for 45 degrees in the morning because you've got runs that this is where I need it to be. Then on the way home from work, plug it in, tune it again because it's 105 outside. You could if you want to, but just like I say, if even me, I'm not doing that. There's no way. I don't have time for that. But what I do have time for is, if I'm really going to tune a motorcycle to be the most efficient bike it could be, to be the fastest that it could be, I'm buying me a Fuel Tech, Max ECU, Holly, and there's some others out there. But I'm telling you now, I'm buying me a Fuel Tech, Max ECU, or Holly. And now I know I'm really going to get my bike tuned. So anyway, enough of that soapbox. I'm done with this today. I got to do some serious work, get this thing in line the way I need it, but it sounds good. It looks good. Everything checked out. And anyway, as I say in all my videos, bye-bye.